Hello, boys and girls. It's the one and only Mrs. Stanford here. That's right, there might be lots of head teachers around the world, but there's only one Mrs. Stanford. The reason I opened with this greeting this morning or this afternoon, depending on when you're watching this, is because it's going to be very important to our assembly this week, thinking about everybody as being unique and one and only. So, welcome to a pre-recorded assembly this week. We weren't doing the Zoom this week. We thought we'd give it a go with just a video. And every now and again, I'm going to ask you questions and you can stop the video and answer your teacher. So, can you remember what the magic word is, what the theme is for this week? I'm going to count to 3, and after 3, I want you to try and shout out what you think the magic word is. Maybe I'll be able to hear you down in my office. So, what is our assembly about today? Let's think. 1, 2, 3. That's right. Oh my goodness, I can't believe so many of you remembered. Our assemblies for this week and next week, we're going to be looking at that special word that I introduced to you last week called diversity. Now, can anybody remember what diversity means? Perhaps pause the video and speak with your teacher about what diversity means. Pause now. Well, I wonder how many of you actually said diversity means being different or embracing and celebrating people's differences. It would be a very boring world if everybody was the same. It would be a very boring world if every head teacher was the same as me, wouldn't it? Imagine if you typed into Google head teacher and images and then these came back. Certainly wouldn't be very diverse, would it? Because they all look exactly the same image. We talked about diversity a little bit last week in our assembly, and you already gave me some ideas about why we might need to talk about diversity. Some people mentioned Black Lives Matter and racism as a reason why we all need to be aware that we should celebrate diversity and not criticise it. There's a special word. If you find somebody's differences and you then insult them for their differences, this is called prejudice. In our school, remember we talked locally about our school, we do not want anybody to have a mindset where they criticise or they bully people just because they happen to be a little bit different. We don't want any prejudice in our school. Now, prejudice can be a whole load of things. Racism is something that everybody knows a lot about at the moment, but we still need to keep talking about. And that's a really big global issue. On a smaller level, you can experience prejudice because you're a boy or a girl. You can experience prejudice because you're tall or because you're short. Maybe because you wear glasses. Maybe because of your mum or your dad's job. People are prejudiced against you. Maybe because of the clothes you wear or because of the religion that you have. There are so many different ways that people can bully other people. And in our school, we really want to be sure that everybody has a mindset that is a growth mindset, that is open to celebrating people's differences and not criticising them. I've got a video clip, several video clips, but the first one I want you to watch is about a young boy who's probably similar age to you. He's talking about how important it is to be different, about how important diversity is in the world and what it means to him. I hope you watch and you listen and you learn from him.
My name is Cole, and over the next few minutes, I'm going to teach you that it's okay to be different. Since a young age, I've worn different colored socks and 2 different shoes. Why? Because I am unique, a standout from the crowd. I feel best when I am being me. This summer, a funny thing happened. I was in a bookstore with my mom when I realized everyone was strangely quiet. And so I did what needed to be done. I started singing. As a joke, my mom pointed to a book and said, "Hey Cole, this book is for you." I pulled it out and read the cover. Here's what it said: "You're weird." A creative journal for misfits, oddballs, and anyone else who's uniquely awesome. It's the best book ever. It tells everyone it's cool to be different. Today, I'm going to tell you about a friendship of mine that is a little different than you might expect. This is one of my best friends, Stephen. He is the happiest person I know. Stephen is 44 years old and has autism. Let me start by explaining how we became special friends. When my mom was just 13 years old, she was in the high school cafeteria about to have lunch with her friends. Then she passed a table of kids with special needs. Stephen was a boy at that table. He shouted out, "Hey, what's your name? Come sit with me." My mom sat down, and in that moment, a special friendship began. Stephen asked my mom 3 questions. He wanted to know what she was having for lunch, her phone number, and if they could be friends for 40 years. As my mom gave him her phone number and said yes, he clapped with excitement and said, "I will call you every day." Ever since that day, in 1988, he has kept his promise and called our house every single day. When I was born, Stephen was a special part of our family, and I've grown up calling him Uncle Stephen. Stephen is included in family dinners, he comes to my soccer games, he loves watching movies with us, and every couple of weeks he has a sleepover. Stephen has had autism his whole life. Autism spectrum disorder refers to a range of conditions characterized by challenges with social skills, repetitive behaviors, speech and nonverbal communications, as well as by unique strengths and differences. My friend Stephen is not able to drive a car, but he is able to memorize every phone number he has ever heard. There is no cure for autism, but I think Stephen is perfect the way he is. One of my favorite memories with Stephen is whenever a fire truck passes us. He shouts out when I grow up, "I want to be a fire truck." That always makes me smile. He likes the idea of being a fireman, but he loves the idea of being a fire truck. Another thing that always makes me laugh is how much he likes to eat. Have you ever met someone who can eat a steak, 8 slices of pizza, French fries, apple pie, ice cream, and they are still starving? Well, Stephen eats all that almost every time we see him. Finally, one of my favorite memories with Stephen is when we play hide and seek. He always hides in the closets. I love playing hide and seek with Stephen. It always makes me smile. But not just me. He makes everyone smile. I don't think we need a cure for autism, just like we don't need a cure for freckles. Autism is not a disease, just like brown hair isn't a disease. You don't need to fix something that isn't broken. I look up to my Uncle Stephen as he is the happiest person I know. Stephen doesn't try to be like anyone else. He is exactly who he was meant to be. Imagine a world where we all live like Stephen. Find out what makes you different. Don't be afraid to stand out. Wake up, jump out of bed, and be exactly who you are. We are all a little different, and that's awesome. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed listening to Colt and all what he had to say about how important it is to embrace your uniqueness and not to try to be exactly the same as everybody else. He certainly was a young man that had a lot of strong ideas, and I loved what he said and the friendship that he described, and I love the way he only ever wears 2 different coloured socks rather than a pair. I think I definitely want him as a friend. Now, the next young man to speak is speaking perhaps about a very serious matter. You talked to me last week about what you knew about Black Lives Matter, about racism in society, and that's one of the forms of prejudice that we experience quite often these days. This is a young man called Ellis. He's actually British, and he's here to talk about how he feels as a black boy about Black Lives Matter and about the prejudice that's experienced by his family and friends just because they're black.
This is a dedication. Imagine you're at the dinner table with your parents. It's a normal weekday, just like the others. You're having a normal conversation with your parents, and mid-flow between the conversation, you hear breaking news, and a man had been shot for no particular reason. Your now scared parents begin telling you about safety with the police. Imagine this scene. Your parents begin to explain the situation, with one acting as the police and the other telling you to just be calm and do as the officers say. With one hand held high, you say, "I'm just reaching for my wallet." This scene seems unnecessary, but it is exactly what happens in my family, simply because we are black. Do you think this is fair? Because I don't. So far in America, there has been a great number of black people who are wrongfully killed by police officers. To be specific, there has been 722 fatal killings, and 3/4 of them were black. This statistic is ridiculous because black people only make up 13% of the US population, but are 5 times as more likely to get stopped by the police. Black Lives Matter was introduced when a series of racially motivated killings started to happen in America. It is an international activist movement that originated in the African American community. Black Lives Matter campaigns against the violence and perceived racism of black people. It also supports the black families who have been impacted by the wrongful killings from police officers. Did you know that black suspects are more likely to get wrongfully shot for supposedly having a weapon? A recent shooting was in 2016 when a man named Anton Sterling was outside selling CDs outside of a convenience store. Just an innocent man selling CDs did not deserve this. Only a day after, another man named Philando Castile was in his car when he was fatally shot by police officers for carrying a pistol, even though he was licensed. These are just only 2 of the stories. There are even more innocent deaths like Keith Lamont Scott, Roy Richards, Jason King, Eric Garner, Michael Brown, Freddie Gray, and Trayvon Martin. This makes me feel agitated because I know too that I'm at risk of this, and this still goes on in my hometown. In addition, it highlights because I'm black, I have to take into extra consideration everything I do, potentially more than any other race. For example, I have to take into account the impact of being black could have on my future. When I apply for a job, for example, there is no room for error. People could disregard me solely because of the color of my skin. Because I'm black, I have to make sure that my qualifications undeniably open the door that the color of my skin might want to close. Imagine a man named Connor and another man named Jamal both applied for the same job. Who do you think is more likely to get the job? Connor is more likely to get the job because they'll look at the 2 names and immediately recognize that Jamal is the stereotypical black name. This also makes me feel worried and furious, not only for myself, but for my dad, grandpa, and uncle, because they are all black and they could all potentially get stopped by the police for even walking home. I don't like to hear stories where anybody gets shot. In particular, I like to hear stories where black people get shot from police officers for no particular reason. I was victimized in my previous school because of the color of my skin, and that didn't make me feel good, and it shouldn't make you feel good either. Say if someone said to you, "Are you carrying a gun?" just because of the color of your skin color. Why does being black not make you even to everyone else? The Black Lives Matter movement is necessary because it wants equal rights, and that's the message they're protesting for. Black Lives Matter is protesting for equality in the long run by focusing on Black Lives Matter now. People can argue that all lives matter, in which they do, but all lives matter can't matter until brown lives, black lives, Asian lives, European lives, all lives matter equally. I'm going to put a cartoon on screen to furthermore explain my point. First of all, anyone, black, white, brown, or any other types of people can spread awareness. They can tell their friends why Black Lives Matter. However, protesting isn't always the way to succeed in your claim. Last but not least, black people should be more calm and make websites, make YouTube videos explaining why Black Lives Matter, or even making pamphlets. We can all unite to prevent the killings of black people. This is a dedication to Anton Sterling, Philando Castile, Michael Brown, Freddie Gray, and Trayvon Martin. There are simply not enough roses to represent the innocent black people killed by white police officers. This is why Black Lives Matter now. Black Lives Matter, and my life matters. Thank you.
After you've listened to both these videos and watched both these videos, I now have a little task for you to do in class. I want you to take a little bit of time to talk with your teacher to discuss how you feel after watching both those videos and what you actually take from watching both those videos. Will anything that you heard in those videos have made you think about perhaps sometimes the way you act and about how you might be able to be a better you? About maybe if you have any prejudices inside of you. Maybe sometimes you aren't as kind as you might need to be in our school. Have you learned anything? Has it made you think about how you need to act, how you need to be a little bit more embracing towards diversity in your life? Have a talk with your teacher. For the final part of our assembly today, I've chosen a clip that I think you are all going to enjoy a lot. I know many of you like drama and performance. Often in the world, when there's a big issue, in this case racism, people turn to song or music or drama or dance as a way of trying to get a message across so that when people watch it, they learn something from it. There's a very famous dance group and they have the name Diversity. They're called Diversity because they're made up of lots and lots of different people. It's a big dance group, you'll see from the number of people that are dancing. And there are people with black skin and white skin and brown skin and people with different religions and women and men. It's a really diverse group of people that come together from different countries to dance. They are using their dance as a way to get messages across to people. In this case, you're going to see a dance that was designed to get the message across about the Black Lives Matter protests and about racism in general. It was only shown a couple of weeks ago, so it's very, very current. At the time, it was shown on Britain's Got Talent. If you've been in the school a few years, you will know about Britain's Got Talent because I've shown a few videos from that in our assemblies. Now, interestingly, this video got 22,000 complaints to the television station that actually showed the video. After you've watched it, Perhaps you can talk to your teacher about why you think it got complaints. And then a final question for you, because the man that leads this dance troupe said that he knew that his dance that he made, that he choreographed for this video, he knew it was important that everyone saw it because of the number of complaints that it received. He said he doesn't care about the complaints. It showed how important it was that it was shown. Why do you think he said that? Why do you think he felt even more convinced that this dance and this video were important for people to see when he realised that people were willing to complain about it? Enjoy the dance. Have a discussion with your teachers afterwards. Thank you so much for listening to my assembly today. And I hope that the messages that we've seen in this assembly today will help us a little bit locally as well as globally. Locally in our school, to perhaps enjoy people's differences and not get tempted to insult people for their differences, but to celebrate them and say, that's great that you are a little bit different, or that's great that your hair is this colour, or that you wear glasses. That's our aim. Okay, boys and girls, have a good rest of the day. Bye.
Tell me the one about the virus again. Please, that one's my favourite. I promise just once more.
Okay, I'll tell you the story of how the world was before. It was a world of waste and wonder, of poverty and plenty. Back before we understood why hindsight's 2020. People came up with companies to trade across all lands, but they swelled and got much bigger than we ever could have planned. We'd always had our wants, but now it got so quick. You could have anything you dreamed of in a day with a click. Families had stopped talking, not to say they never spoke, but the meaning must have melted and the work-life balance broke. But then in 2020, a new virus came our way. The governments reacted and told us all to hide away. But while we all were hidden under orders of the Prime Minister, people dusted off their instincts and noticed something more sinister. Another disease, deep-rooted in our system. Fear, hate and ignorance, but racism was the symptom. As the world watched on, another black life gone, leaving what we thought we knew in tatters. What we thought we knew, some clearly didn't. Black lives matter.
Nobody's born racist, man, it's something you learn. Deep-rooted in your brain from the day of your birth. I think it's time that we repair all of these bridges we burned and let love out of our hearts onto the cheeks we've turned. Spread love, show love, let's get rid of this curse. Don't wait for anyone to act, man, you go first. 400 years wasted, let's get rid of this hurt, cause that's the only way we'll ever see peace on earth.
Our diversity.
But in amongst this crazy world, we found love within the madness. We clapped the heroes of the NHS, found love within the sadness. And when we finally found the cure, and we were allowed to go outside, it's funny, we preferred the world we found to the one we left behind.
did it take a virus to bring the people back together?
Because sometimes you have to get sick, my boy, before you start feeling better.